Hello plant friends, my name is Jimmy. I'm a doctor and tropical plant hobbyist in LA, and this channel is about plants. So one of the things I struggle with in this hobby is plant prices. If you're into Monstera, philodendron, anthurium, alocasia, the prices have just gone really insane this year. I feel like a lot of us struggle with how to improve our collection and not empty our wallets, how to find the best plans for the best value for our money. These are questions that I struggle with, and I'm sure there are questions that some of you guys struggle with as well. I was recently able to visit Jake's place. Jake is a well-known and respected aroid collector here in Los Angeles. He has an amazing collection. He's always hunting and collecting new plants. So I figure he's the perfect person to ask regarding, plant prices and value and where to buy plants. So let's see what he has to say. Do you think it's easier to get plants now as opposed to like a year or so ago? I feel like that's one of the things I've noticed with the prices going up. I feel that people should also realize that the selection is also going up, right? Like as more and more people are interested, more and more people are hunting out and trying to grow the rare plants. So there are more rare plants on market. A lot of these plants, I feel that if you checked Facebook or the social media is a year or two ago, you're not finding all of these readily available ones, right? Like how often were you finding a Birkin,
Yeah,
a year ago?
So interestingly, I think that part of what has given me such a fantastically kind of rich collection, I've always been good at finding stuff. That's kind of something I'm good at.
True,
in life.
But I think people should also realize how much time you are spending on the hunt, right?
Absolutely.
Like you are on social media, you're always I feel like you're always in the know about what's happening in the plant community, as well as sales and different web page.
I stay active.
Yeah, the amount of time that not that you're investing in, but it's just part of your hobby, right? Mm-hmm. You're a very invested part in in this hobby, so you do spend a lot of time. And yes, a lot of the plants may come to you, either easily or more financially available to you than other people. But that's because, you're spending the time looking and hunting. Correct. And also you're also developing the social connections and, to these people who have them.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's all true. I like to take the time to get to know the folks that I'm buying plants from. Which actually goes a long way because, for example, I have a great source in Thailand that I get plants from, and went out of my way to get to know these folks a little bit. And not only now am I able to get the stuff that's on their website, but if there's stuff I'm looking for, they'll go to the markets in Thailand and find it for
That's
me,
good,
right? And
see, now you're gonna get these questions about people are just gonna randomly message you where are you buying your plants in Thailand from? And I feel like sometimes people do that, and if it's if you're friends, that's different. You sort of have to build up these social connections.
Yeah. I think that I'm happy to share some of my sources but I also encourage people to do the footwork, right?
You have to. Doing the footwork is really important. The footwork works. Right? If you're thinking about expanding your collection, building your collection, and doing so at as low a price point as you can get, you really do need to go out there and do the research. I can't say that I'm very good at doing footwork. I'm actually pretty lazy when it comes to collecting plants these days. But when we're talking about footwork, where the obvious is checking the websites. There are a lot of common websites. Checking Etsy, checking eBay, comparing prices. Yes, that's very obvious, right? I think the less obvious part of the footwork is engaging in social media. If you spend any time talking to Jake, he'll talk to you about all these friends he has on Facebook and Instagram, and behind a lot of his plans there are stories of how he got them and how the community helped him, or friends from Instagram or from Facebook helped him either acquire the plant or care for the plant. Being part of the community, interacting, building relationships, that's a huge part of the footwork.
So I feel very strongly about this, but I think that there are a number of us that really enjoy some really great sources from overseas, right? Whether it be through Southeast Asian sources or through Central or South American sources. The thing that people don't realize about this, so I've ordered from the Ecuadorian growers several times now, and I'd say you order 12 plants. 4 of them come in and they're good. 4 of them come in and they're rough. Yeah. But you can bring them back. Then 4 of them are like, these are probably not going to make it. And all 12 of them need to be grown out a little bit before they can be shoved in another box and sent to some people. So
I think every collector at some point or another will think about importing plants or do import plants. If you go deep enough in the aroid collecting rabbit hole, there's going to be plants that, are just not commercially available here in the US, right? Like nurseries don't grow them. They're hard to find or go for outrageous prices on Instagram or Facebook or Etsy or eBay or wherever you like to purchase your really, really rare plants. That being said, like Jake alluded to, there's lots of risks involved. So before you make that leap, you really want to assess if importing plants is the right thing for you.
I feel very strongly. I think that there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there are some people that have opened up online shops or even opened up brick and mortar shops here in Southern California that they just found a great source to get plants from, and they get them in on a Monday and they sell them on a Tuesday, and I really disagree with that. I think I've got a buddy here named Dustin who owns a store called Leaf and Spine in LA, and he orders plants from a lot of the same places I do, but he also puts them in his greenhouse, lets them establish for a few months to make sure that when they're being sold to a hobbyist, whether it be through a store here or online, that those plants are established and ready to be grown here. And so I think a lot of times I see folks that are like, I know that you got that plant from Ecuador for $40 and why are you charging $200 for it? And I guess my response to that is, go ahead and get that plant from Ecuador for $40 and hopefully it will survive. It may not. And so I think I've seen more and more people ordering from, some of the Ecuadorians, and you see these reactions where people are freaking out because the plants come in so rough. And I think that that's part of what is you have to look at when you're buying a plant is, do you want to buy it from a U.S. seller who hopefully has established that plant? And that you're getting something that's rooted and established and stable, or do you want to take the gamble? And there's a lot of losses when you order plants from overseas. So
some people do wonder why plants here are so expensive, right? Like why are plants from Asia or South America or Central America, why are some of them just like so cheap in comparison to plants available in the US? Let's just say that our conditions are as ideal for growing these tropical plants as Asia or Central America. The cost would still be higher, right? Land, facility, resources, labor, all those costs are higher in the US than compared to the other countries. Even if the plant grew just as fast or just as vigorously or just as easily, here in the US, the same plant would still cost more.
It does seem as though there's a lot more formats for us as collectors to transact and trade both with each other and with growers. So there's, I think I belong to like probably 24 Facebook groups, and then there's like Instagram. People post Instagram auctions a lot, and then I'm a big eBay troll. I'm all over eBay. And then there's shops, and then there's Etsy, and so I definitely do think that there's a lot more places for us to sell plants to each other and trade plants with each other. But I also think that like you said kind of in the beginning of this, is a lot of this is just good old fashioned like detective work. I think that I am always one to, I will ask people if they'll share their sources with me. But I also ask that in as much of a respectful way as I can of people that I have a relationship with.
Yeah.
And I also ask that question with every expectation that if they say they won't share their source, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that folks have that right to, protect their sellers or protect, I've got this great source in Thailand that I'm not going to share, right?
Yeah.
Because I know that if they start getting 500 orders every week, that they're not going to be able to service me, and their prices are going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with, I think that's what's happened a little bit with Ecuadorians, right?
Yeah.
Is, they're great growers and they're great for the hobby, but I think so many people are ordering from them now that they're not as able to keep up with the supply. And I've seen kind of, a lot of cuttings that they're selling that aren't even rooted when I get them, or, they're just trying to produce so quickly. So, it is that balance of, when folks ask people what their sources are, to me, I think that there's this instant assumption that like, oh, well, he doesn't want to share his sources because he thinks that it makes him better than other people to have a rare plant. And for me, that's not true at all.
I don't think it's like that.
All. There are some people that do. That's not my experience.
Yeah.
For me, it's that, I value the sources that I have and that I've built relationships with.
Yeah.
And I really want them to continue to produce quality and stay intact.
Hey guys, if you like the content so far, please like, subscribe, comment. It really, really helps me out a lot. And click that bell icon next to the subscribe button to not miss any of my future videos. Yeah, I think when you're talking about imports, there's, they're definitely cheaper. And if you buy imported and the plants survive, yes, you probably save some.
Yeah.
But, I think people should realize that, there's a cost that's involved in the plants that are here, that they're grown here.
Totally.
Land, resources here is a bit more expensive, but they are more acclimated here. And also, like, for every
plants is a lot of work.
Yeah. Also, like, every plant that you want to buy, there's like 5 that you don't, because you don't have the patience or the time, or the leaves aren't pretty enough for you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a cost that's not on the buyer, but it was on the seller, and then it gets transmitted to the buyer in the cost of the overall plant. As some of you know, I do have an Etsy store. One of the things I'm most proud of for the store is that we really, really try to source almost all domestically grown plants. There is a cost to that, right? I think one of the costs is that there is a sort of a limited selection if you want to just get plants that have been grown or have been raised in the US. 2 is that the price point is a little higher for all the reasons that I said before. Growing and maintaining plants in the US by these growers are, they're just higher. I think the benefits are pretty obvious if we're talking about in terms of like, the plant being acclimated, the plant traveling better. It's, there's definitely a benefit, and then there's, a cost and a selection trade-off.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest recommendations that I'd have for people when they're buying plants here in the States is like I said, I'm all for, buying from people that source obviously from Southeast Asia and from Ecuador, but, I would make sure that you're buying, I think it's important to buy plants from people that know how to grow those plants themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And I also think that it's important to buy plants from people that have established those plants. So I had a really negative experience, and I haven't had a lot, but I had a really negative experience with this seller online who, she was at IAS and literally buying plants at IAS and selling them out of the trunk of her car like that very same day. And it's just like, at like a triple markup, right? And it's just like, you're going to mark up a plant just because you have a way to source it and other people don't. To me, what earns the markup is establishing the plant, having knowledge and guidance around how to grow that plant and work people through that. So, I think that, you take people like yourself or like Dustin, my friend at Leaf and Spine here, folks who really know what they're doing and are selling quality plants that they're taking, time to nurture and establish. I think, that makes all the difference, and it's worth the markup.
Yeah. I mean, I think that people should if you're going to buy privately, then you should buy, make sure that your seller is like a seller collector or a hobbyist, who actually, has the same passion for plants that you have, So at this point in my plant journey, I really only buy plants from, people I consider seller collectors, right? These are people who sell plants, but are also really enthusiastic and passionate hobbyists and collectors, right? So they sell either their cuttings or extra plants or so, and at home or in their greenhouse, they have their own private collections. I feel that seller collectors are, they just share the same passion that I have. I feel that they're more likely to take care of the plant, prior and then during the shipping process. And I feel that, it's really important to them that I get a good plant. And I feel like they're, if I had trouble, growing it, I feel that they're also there to, guide me if I had any, issues. So yeah, I really recommend that if you're, buying a lot on Instagram or Facebook or any of the social medias that aren't primarily like selling platforms, really think about who you're getting it from and whether that person is a seller or collector.
There's a couple of things that I think people my age and younger aren't good at. But like patience is a good part of the plant game, right? So not just in terms of growing your plants, but like put out there, if there are particular plants that you're looking for, put it out there to your friends, to your community, to Instagram, whatever. And hopefully you'll find things like, I've got a buddy, Edgar plants our Serenity. He always awesome. Kind of knows what I'm looking for, and he's really good about like randomly I'll get a text from him and I'll be like, hey, XYZ is selling, this plant, are you still looking for it? And
Edgar's like you. He also puts a lot of work, and he's again it's not really work when it's something that you love or you're passionate about. But he's also like always on social media. He's always hunting, and he's always
and he's very generous with his friends around where he's getting stuff, and that gets reciprocated as well. So if anybody has an alocasia green dragon, Edgar is looking for one right now.
He's Edgar. I met Edgar when he was really big on anthuriums, and I think recently he's started to get really into alocasias. So he's trying to build up his. He's trying to build up his collection, which is really funny.
Yeah.
All right. I hope that this provided some insights into this question of, how do I build my collection well? How do I, buy plants, that's a good value for the money? How do I find good plants? I think, in recap, it's just, doing the footwork, building relationships, gauging your international import risk. If you want like a good plant, going domestic may save you some headaches along the road. And so I think that's it for this episode. Till next time, guys. Happy planting.